One of my interests in the world is Brazil and the world. I think it's a BRICS nation, so it's trying to develop itself as an advanced economy in the world. I think that's one of the interests about Brazil. It is paying a lot of focus and attention and placing a lot of political priority on its role in the world as an advanced economy. For obvious reasons, I think it could build the country as a prosperous country, as being an advanced economic power in the world, and perhaps more of an equal player in the world with other countries, and perhaps even Europe and America as well, and perhaps Russia, China and India. So I think Brazil is placing a lot of hope and interest in becoming an equal player in the world and an advanced economy in the world. It's kind of competing on the same level as India, South Africa, China, Russia, who are also BRICS nations. So I think this is quite interesting, and I think one of the results of this focus by Brazil in the world is its kind of political policies in the world, its presence in the world. It is trying to create its presence in the world. So I think it's building some kind of presence in the world, and that's very important. I think most of the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, who are advanced economies of the future, and they're building themselves up as these advanced economies of the future, are presenting a challenge to American authority in the world and an American role in the world. So I think these 5 countries are a challenge to America. I don't know how America is dealing with it. I think initially America welcomed the idea of these BRICS nations into the world. They could perhaps introduce themselves into G7 nations as well and become something like the G13 in 20 or 30 years time. So I think that was one of the interests by America and Europe with these 5 countries. But I think over the past 10-15 years it's been kind of quietened down a bit. It's been diluted a bit. It's not been spoken about as much as it did. So I think that's one of the current issues with these 5 countries. I think America has maybe distanced itself off from these 5 countries, and Europe has as well. So I think that's one of the current developments of these 5 countries. I think Russia has kind of steadied its political policies in the world. India has kind of been very aggressive in pushing and building its industrial capacity. So its political policies in the world are directed and interested in those issues. And I think China has become a superpower with its interest in its political issues around this. So I think with Brazil and South Africa, Brazil has developed some kind of a developing world agenda where it's kind of had a political statement about the role of developing countries in the world, so that they could perhaps also compete in the world. And I think with South Africa, they've kind of just tried to steady their current development, economic development in the world, and their political policies are kind of focused around that. So I think that's one of the interests about this. I think one of the concerning things about BRICS nations is that most of them are undeveloped countries. China hasn't industrialized as a power. India hasn't industrialized as a power compared to Europe and America. Europe has industrialized, America's industrialized, Russia's industrialized, but these countries, China, India, and Brazil, have not industrialized as economic powers, so they have a limited economic power in the world. So there is some kind of concern as to where this economic development is coming from. If you look at what's in China, there's not much in China economically, there's not much in India economically, and there's not much in Brazil economically. So there's an interest into where this development, where this advancement is coming from, because there doesn't seem to be anything in these countries. But I think the concerning thing is that the political policies that these countries produce, that these countries undertake in the world, are creating a global economic condition where there's a heavy presence of developing countries in the world. And I think America has some kind of answers to provide with some of the questions that are being raised by these concerns in the world. I think that America is quite silent on this, but Brazil has a lot of political policies in the world, and the same with South Africa and India and China. So I think that the world is now balanced with more of a southern hemisphere that's more powerful in the world, and with China as a superpower and India as an advanced economic power. I think America is kind of turning a blind eye to this, and it's not kind of paying much attention to this. I think a lot of the wealth of the West has moved from the West to the East, and this is primarily because of things like austerity and the banking crisis, and the global economic downturn, which has favoured the Southern Hemisphere. So I think we do have challenges with America and the United States of America. I think it's kind of similar to how it's dealing with its issues around the world. I think there's a lot of questions that America needs to answer for, and I think that's one of the concerns in the world. Thank you.